we are going to talk about the Broncos' final preseason game here, James. And it's the third game. We don't know what starting reps are going to look like. You and I are both on the same page as to what we don't want them to play. Who knows what Sean Payton says. He's going to meet the media at, I think it's 2:30 this afternoon. And you'll hear what he has to say then from the drive. But there are a few battles still open, and I think there are still a few names that are fighting for a roster spot, trying to put something on tape for other teams. So let's go through some of these. And let's start at the quarterback. I'm with you. You said it earlier in the show. Give Jarrett Stidham the entire first half. Give Zach Wilson the entire second half. Let's have a battle. And for me, I say the winner gets the backup job.
I would actually flip it because Jarrett Stidham's had the ability to play with better teammates.
Oh, okay. I'm cool with that, yeah.
For lack of a better way to put it. In the first two games, I want to see Zach Wilson start the game and play with, whoever is on the field, whether it's, Tim Patrick or Marvin Mims or whoever. I would give him that opportunity. I'd give him the first half. I'd give Jarrett Stidham the second half. And then I would make my decision based on, all right, how did they each look over the course of 3 games during training camp? I think Zach Wilson should win the job. I think he makes way more sense just given where the Broncos are than having a guy that's steady Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need a steady Eddie. They're not a playoff team that, hey, let's just not go off the rails if you have to play a game and a half. I would keep Zach Wilson, but I'd give him each a half this game.
Okay, and yeah, I don't mind that at all. I kind of like it with your explanation there. Yeah, give Zach a chance. He's got to do nothing with that group. He didn't even get to do 2-minute drills at the end of practice with his own group.
Let's see what he can do with the twos and against twos, right? The best competition he could possibly have in this game with the best possible supporting cast that he could have in this game. Let's see what he's got.
Much like you said about Sean's approach to playing starters in this game, I'm like that with the quarterbacks. I don't think there's any reason to have 3 quarterbacks, but they're going to have 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to have 3 quarterbacks either. Like you've got one. Your backup quarterback is a guy that if everything goes according to plan, he never steps foot on the field.
Mm-hmm.
He plays a grand total of 0 plays.
Yeah.
Why have 2 of those guys? That just seems like a wasted roster spot to me. Now, the people say, well, like the 52nd or 53rd guy matters on a team. Well, they to some extent do. Otherwise, the roster would be 51.
Right.
Get a guy that can do something on special teams so you don't have to have a starter running down and covering punts. There is some benefit to it, or it gives you some flexibility in terms of who's active, and depending on the opponent, you keep guys that have a little bit different skill set. Like I think to have a third quarterback who things really have to go bad before he ever plays.
Right.
Listen, if you get to that point and you got to pick somebody up, the season's a disaster anyway. Cross that bridge when you come to it.
And you know what? To the people that say that, the 52nd, 53rd guy is not a priority on the roster, what if Marvin Mims isn't the guy? What if Tim Patrick gets hurt again? Then little Jordan Humphrey becomes that 52nd guy on the roster that becomes important because now you don't have depth at the position of wide receiver. And then it matters.
And it's in every other position, the guys that are backups will play. It's not, they don't just play if it's an absolute disaster. The backup quarterback only plays if bad things occur, and the third string guy only plays if even worse things occur.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's a wasted roster spot.
Yeah, you and I are going to agree on that. So, we'll see what it looks like. The 2 quarterbacks on a Sunday, I hope that they're fighting for a roster spot and for that backup job because 100% they do not need 3 of those guys. How about running backs? This has been a battle throughout all of camp, James, and I don't know where you're at, but I think Javonte, Jaleel, and Audric are on the team. There's 3. If they are going to keep 4, now that's another conversation. You keep 4 and a fullback, well, now we're talking about even less depth at other positions. But if they're going to keep 4, I believe it's for Blake Watson or Tyler Beatty. Samaje Perine will get a ton of reps, but I don't think it's a real part of the competition. Are they keeping 4? Who wins that last spot?
Well, first of all, I don't know that Audric Estime is a guarantee to make this roster.
You don't?
He's been very unimpressive to me. And he's done something you're not allowed to do if you're a running back. He's put the ball in the turf. Didn't he have the fumble that turned into a touchdown for the Colts?
You did, yeah.
So that is a big negative in the pros and cons list for Audric Estime. I think he's been a major disappointment. We heard about how he was just going to come in and be this this back that was going to be so hard to tackle, and he's Jerome Bettis light and all the rest of the stuff. He's been nothing close to that. So if he makes it, it's just because they spent a 5th-round pick on him. But I don't think he should make it based on the body of work. So I want to see something from him in the game against the Cardinals. I think Tyler Beatty has been the best of the bunch. He's had a touchdown in each game, and both of them he kind of showed what Jaleel showed last year, where it's like, whoa, he got to the second level faster than the other backs. The 11-yard touchdown run up in Indianapolis, where he got to he beat everybody to the pylon.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's another back other than Jaleel on the team who scores there. And I think he caught the pass last week that turned into a touchdown. Same kind of a deal. So I think if you're just going off of, hey, what have they done in the preseason games? If the preseason games matter at all, he should win that battle amongst those three. I think he should win the battle even if you include Estime in it.
Okay. And fullback, where you at on that? I was so anti-fullback throughout the entire summer, basically my entire football life. It's not 1992 anymore, and Mike Allstott's not walking through that door. So
Right.
I was like, hey, I'm not really fullback guy. But I started just watching some of camp and then some of the preseason game. And again, it's vanilla and it's dialed down, so it's unknown really. I did give myself, I don't know if it's an out, but like a caveat of my opinion. If they're going to commit to the run, okay, I can handle having a fullback on the roster. I don't know that you need it to be Michael Burton, right? He plays special teams and he's a fullback. Nate Atkins is a fullback and a tight end and can play special teams, so it could be that guy. And I also made the case that, like, is it that hard to play fullback? Your job is to run fast and hit someone.
Yeah, find a backup lineman that can do it the 2 or 3 times
If Quinn
you need
Bailey
it to
never
do.
got hurt, that could have been the guy.
Yeah, I'm not unless you're going to play a fullback the vast majority of first and second downs, I wouldn't keep one
You're
on the
talking like
roster.
90% of first and second down.
And they're not going to. So I just think it's a luxury. I think it's silly. I think based on the number of snaps the fullback's going to get in games this year, just figure out which backup offensive lineman can fill that role and go with it.
Okay. All right, let's go to wide receivers then. And you and I both said Tim Patrick's probably going to play in this game on Sunday. Marvin Mims probably going to play in this game on Sunday. I'm kind of looking at the wide receiver room as already done. If it's 6, it's Courtland, it's Josh, it's Marvin, it's Franklin, it's Vele, and Tim Patrick. And Troy Franklin, again, kind of like you're talking about with Audric Estime, he hasn't done anything. He's been really, really bad. I've heard Phil talk a bunch about Troy Franklin and being a 4th-round pick. That doesn't mean that you're safe. Phil says, 1st, 2nd, 3rd-round guys, you're going to get benefit of the doubt. Everybody else after that, you're not going to get benefit of the doubt.
I'm 100% with Phil. If you're a day 1 or a day 2 pick, those are premium picks. We're going to keep you around because we want to give you enough time to develop. So 4th round and beyond, day 3 picks, you got to show me something, and he's shown absolutely nothing.
You're right.
0. So to keep him over Jalen Virgil, to keep him over Lil Jordan Humphrey, every day at camp, Lil Jordan Humphrey seemed to make a play. He made plays last year for this team. He caught the 8-yard pass from Stidham and turned it into a 50-some-yard touchdown. We haven't seen that Troy Franklin can do that at the NFL level. Like, why is he a lock?
I watched Troy Franklin catch one ball. I'm not trying to be funny or under-exaggerate or undersell. I saw him catch one ball with my eyes. I'm sure he caught more. And it was in 7-on-7.
Yeah, and so everybody talks about how, well, boy, if they cut him, somebody will pick him up. Really? There's going to be 1,500 guys released next Monday, or this Monday.
This Monday.
This coming Monday.
Tuesday at 2 o'clock.
So 1,500 guys. There are a bunch of teams around the league that are going to be looking at it saying, you know what? Broncos have one of the worst rosters in football. Who'd they let go? Who couldn't make that team? Pro Football Focus ranks them as the worst roster in football. Give me the guys that couldn't crack that list. I just don't buy it. And if somebody wants to pick up Troy Franklin, enjoy, right? And same with Audric Estime. Just because you spent draft picks on him doesn't mean they make the roster. And then when it comes to Franklin, it's Sean Payton, he slammed on the table for him and they traded up 16 picks. Okay, well, maybe that was a mistake. You don't compound that mistake by keeping him on the roster and cutting somebody who could help you. Right. And you don't spend the entire training camp talking about how this is about finding the best 53. If you tell me it's about finding the best 53, right now Troy Franklin isn't on the best 53.
No, he's not.
He's not. So if you want to say, hey, we're trying to build a roster that can develop and we're going young and it's a youth movement, okay, then maybe he does make it over little Jordan Humphrey. But that's not what Sean's been saying. He's saying it's the best 53. Well, then Troy Franklin doesn't make the cut.
Yeah, you are right about that. And it would actually go, I think it would go a long way if Sean Payton cut Troy Franklin for himself.
Yeah.
And perception of himself, of him being exactly what you said. I made a mistake. I'm admitting that I made a mistake by letting this guy go. And I know you're bringing up little Jordan, and he did have a nice moment with that big play last year. But if I got to pick who replaced Troy Franklin in this 6 wide receiver room, I would go with Jalen Virgil.
You like the speed?
I like the speed, and I just like the option as a punt returner that, if Marvin Mims isn't going to do anything, he's still going to be a punt return option. Riley Moss is one, and Trayvon Smith, again, is a guy back there. But I just like the speed, and we saw him with the kick return, brought it out to the 45. Bo and the offense went out and turned that into a touchdown. So I'd pick Jalen Virgil to take Troy's spot.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. And the game that jumps out to me from last year that was such a, whoa, the Broncos have a ways to go, wasn't the Dolphins game when they lost 70-20. It was late in the year when they were in Detroit, and the Lions, in terms of team speed, just seemed to be on a different planet than the Broncos.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make your decision based on, hey, I'm keeping the guy that's a burner, fine. You can never have enough speed.
Yeah.
So I would go with that. One thing that I do think is a little strange, we continually hear about, this guy could be a returner, that guy could be a returner. You hear about Blake Watson, stuff like that. Didn't they have the Pro Bowler last year for returning?
Marvin Mims, yeah.
Like, why are they replacing that?
Yeah.
Like, it was like the one thing that worked.
Yeah. It was one of his 2 touchdowns came on a return.
I mean, it's the only highlight from the Dolphins game was his punt return.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, what on earth are they doing if that's the thing? Like, you got one thing that's working.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps leave that alone and go fix all the other things. That one's a mystery to me.
I forgot it was the Dolphins game. So the offense, they actually got beat 70-13.
Correct.
Oh, my God.
And if not for the white flag, it would have been 73-13.
That makes it even worse, man.
I know.
Oh, all right. A good point from Chicken Fingers, too, about talking about the rookie class and Troy Franklin's struggles. Sean Payton, anytime he gets asked about the rookie class, he talks about how great this group is going to be. And the first time he said it, he's like, in 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to see what this group actually is. And I go, Bo Nix, Jonah Ellis, Devon Vele, yeah, they've shown some flash, but Troy Franklin, Audric Estime, they certainly have something to show.
It's a little bit like at the end of the season when George Payton was telling us what a good scout team they had because of all of last year's draft picks. It's like, you're a non-playoff team.
Right.
Why is your scout team so good?
Also, it's like being like, yeah, I want to marry this girl after 2 dates. Like, have you been to her house? Do you know what she looks like in the morning? You know what I mean? Like, there's some things you got to figure out.
Have you traveled with her?
Right.
Those kind of things.